Hello my friends, today we're going to be doing a little bit of Ask Grant Anything. Game of the background is Star Wars Empire at War Thrawn's Revenge mod, just doing a little bit of a skirmish game against the hard AI. The AI in this game is ridiculous and it's a lot of fun to face off. I am very proud with how this game went, so I'm glad that I get to show it off. We're just doing a couple of questions because I do not feel comfortable starting a series while I am working really hard to finish off the last little bits of Brood War Deathless. It's a lot of stuff at the same time. If you want to ask me questions, you can jump on into the Giant Grant Games Discord and there is a submission area there. It is the section called Ask Grant Stuff. Incredibly well named, I know. So let's jump into it. What unit in StarCraft 2 looks visually the worst to you? What's the best? This is a really easy question to me. I think that the Stalker looks dumb. Like, I love the Stalker. It is one of my favorite units to use and micro and stuff, but if you zoom in on it, it's got like his stupid little face popping out of the bottom of the robot, and he's wearing his scarf, and he's got like two little, I don't know, praying mantis hands going on. It's very weird. It's very silly. It just doesn't fit the rest of Protoss aesthetic at all, including the Dark Templar stuff. I don't like it. Meanwhile, I am a big aficionado of the Phoenix. The Phoenix is awesome. It is exactly what a sleek, futuristic fighter thing should look like, and it nails that aesthetic so well. There's a lot of great things in StarCraft, so the Phoenix is just one of them, but definitely the Stalker is the worst. What are your thoughts on various macro mechanics in StarCraft 2 that requires time from players, such as mules, chrono boosts, larva injects, and creep spread? I think I've been asked this before, but I don't remember if it was in an AMA or just people randomly asking it. It's a pretty common question, so I thought I'd just put it here. I think that Mule and Chrono Boost are fine. Both of them are abilities that if you do not cast them as a newbie player, you have a little bit less of either the time resource or the money resource available to you. However, it's not the biggest issue because you are playing slow and you are floating stuff. I think that Creep Spread and Larva Inject should be a little bit less insane. Like, not having, you know, it's like, it's over half of your larva is larva injects basically. And then creep spread is a resource that does not really come in any other way, shape, or form. Like if you don't mule, you still have SCVs. If you don't chrono, you just wait a little bit longer and the thing happens. Creep spread is completely independent of every other entity, and I think that is very odd. For players that don't have the practice doing it, they just get really punished. They don't get a full aspect of the faction, and that feels really bad. It makes switching to factions like Zerg and just playing them a little bit for fun not as rewarding as playing the other factions, and I think that's sad. Is there going to be a nightmare mode for Nova Covert Ops and Mass Recall? No. There is not. Well, there's already kind of a nightmare difficulty for Mass Recall. It's called Enable Psi Emitters. It's in their options, except it's not well made. It's just overwhelmingly dumb, and really every mission is incredibly long, grindy, and you basically have to just sit there until you max out every single time. But Nova Covert Ops is not worth working on. Like, the way that mods work is like a good portion of your time is building the base mod file, and then you have to do all the mission specific changes. And for Nova Covert Ops, you obviously have to do less mission specific changes, but you still have to spend the same amount of time building the base mod file as other campaigns, which means the bang for your buck as a modder is way lower. It takes a lot more time than you would think to make a 9 mission thing, and you might as well just make a 30 mission thing. So it's not really worth Rhyme's time to make, or my time to design. Are you British? No. That was a weird question that got submitted. I am not and have never been British. I was born in California and I live in Oregon. Both of these are in the United States. Do you plan to play more of Company of Heroes 3 in the future once they hopefully fix it? So this question was submitted about 6 months ago, and unfortunately Company of Heroes 3, for the most part, from what I understand, still has not really been fixed. I actually am going to be making a video on it soon, and it's basically going to be a update on the video that I made on the main channel about the next major RTS will fail, because Company of Heroes is not doing well. So we're going to talk about why. And I'm going to try to not have too many I told you so moments. How many trees would you say reside upon your estate? What? First of all, estate is a bold word, but I do live in a very heavily forested state, I swear. A very heavily forested area. One sec, let me think mentally. There, 1, 2, 3. I think it's 7 or 6. They're all like 100-foot tall, big big thick old trees, but there's 6 or 7, yeah. A couple years ago, one of them fell over. It was sad. It was during the windstorms. I say that as if you know what windstorms I'm talking about. You weren't here. I mean, maybe you were. If so, why didn't you help me clean up the tree, dude? What are your thoughts on VTubers and who is the best VTuber? I've actually been asked about VTubers before, but I've thought about them a lot recently. I still don't watch them, I apologize, but I have just been thinking about VTubers because it seems like they're here to stay. My base opinion on them is it's not as weird as people who think it's weird think it is. Like, it's just someone playing a character. And like a lot of YouTube channels have people that are playing characters, or even if that character is just themselves, but like 130%, you know, going crazy and energized. Content creators are already basically playing characters, so just moving it into a slightly more abstract realm in that way is honestly being more forthcoming about what's going on. The big thing that scares me about VTubers is the future of them. I've been thinking about AI and how that's going to interact with the YouTube space as a whole, and one of the things that I am very confident on is that VTuber piracy is going to be a thing. I think that AI assistance is going to make it so that eventually, in the not so distant future, we're going to be able to upload, or I say we, but I mean a bad actor who wants to pirate a VTuber, which is not me. A bad actor is going to be able to plug a VTuber video into a service, and it's going to be able to effectively reverse engineer a rig, which is what they call the VTuber avatars, and then they're going to be able to set it up without actually having had to make it, and then probably try to use that VTuber rig of a popular VTuber to either build their own fake channel and monetize it, or to just run scam stuff. Particularly at the beginning, this wouldn't be perfect by any means, but it is going to be good enough to fool some people, and that is enough for scammers. I don't know how the VTuber sphere is going to deal with that, because it seems like it's going to be very easy, very prolific, and a very simple target. We already see people doing stuff like the Voice Labs cloning Mr. Beast in order to try to scam people, and I am concerned when you have the ability to use 11 Labs or some other service to build those voice clones of the people, and then you also have the VTuber avatars that are actively properly responding to that voiceover as if they are the person. It seems like a really, really dangerous area to go into. One of the reasons that we're still kind of safe from these AI scams is because humans are very, very in tune with the way that other humans act. So you can see all of those very tiny micro expressions and you go, oh, something is off here. But with VTubers, they're a lot more simplistic in the expressions. That's why they're so lively and animated, is they go over the top in order to make up for the lack of micro expression stuff. And that is going to make it much more easy to fake. So good luck, VTuber enjoyers, that's gonna be your future. But all in all, I think that VTubering is fairly harmless. It's not any more harmful than other forms of content creation on the internet. If you were in charge of StarCraft 2 campaign missions, not the lore, but the gameplay aspect, aka objectives, which missions would you be most likely to design differently? This is a very open-ended question. I'm just going to answer one from every campaign. The first one would be Maw of the Void from Wings of Liberty. I think that the mission is fine-ish for battlecruisers. However, I would try to design it in a way that allows the use of non-battlecruiser units in some way, shape, or form. I don't mind when campaigns highlight a unit and are like, here is the thing you want to do with it, but I don't like how Maw of the Void basically requires any normal player to have to be doing it every single time. For Heart of the Swarm, I would change Old Soldiers. I've always found that mission to be a peeve. I know they say not the lore, but I would change the gameplay in order to fit with the lore. And that is that Warfield is supposed to be an incredibly good general, and this is his major fortress, so why are we busting through it with Zerglings, Banelings, and Aberrations? I probably would change the bonus objective or part of the main objective sequence to be destroying nuclear silos that are around the map, and those blow open the gates or something that are super heavily defended, cause some nuclear disaster basically, and using that as the way that you punch through. And then in Legacy of the Void, I think the easy answer is the final epilogue mission, Amon's Fall. It is bad. Not from a purely mechanical perspective, like, it would be a good mission in the middle of Legacy of the Void. However, as an apex, as a climax, you need an aim-on boss fight, please. Like, I don't think that's a hot take. We need a boss fight for the end. Like, why didn't you do it? Why is it rocks? That's a very weird decision, Blizzard. What are my least favorite RTS games? All right, I'm not gonna say like my least favorite game, just like some game that's bad, but of all the really popular games, I don't like Age of Empires 2 that much. It just, for some reason, it doesn't really click with me. And I think that's okay. Like, I completely respect the people that enjoy the game. I think that they are completely justified, and it's one of those things like, you know, sometimes there's like a food and you don't like the food, but you know that the chef cooked it really well. That's kind of how I feel about Age of Empires 2 in the Definitive Edition, where I'm like, wow, this is exactly perfect for the people who want it. And that's not me, and that's okay. As a purely personal opinion, not gameplay related, would you have sided with Hansen or Celendis and Tosh or Nova? The Hansen and Celendis one is easy. Celendis all the way. I think that as a human, it is not that unreasonable to trust the person who's been alive for like 800 years and knows a lot more about what's going on in the grand scope of the galaxy than you. I don't think that Hansen is a good long-term answer for the colony either. She doesn't have the tools or resources herself to protect the colony. Like, all they have to do is throw one virophage at it again, and congratulations, as soon as Jim and his raiders are gone, they're gone too. For the Tosh and Nova one, I think the answer is also pretty obviously Tosh. Like, I think any reasonable individual looks at Tosh and Nova and goes, both of these are incredibly, incredibly untrustworthy people fundamentally. But one of them we have been working with successfully and has not defrauded us or lied to us really in any way, shape, or form, so we should probably continue this active working relationship with them. The other one's boss is Mengsk, okay? Like, are you sure that you want to ally with Nova? No, I'm not. Would you play a Heart of the Swarm campaign where the Zerg are modified into the Tyranids? Yes, I don't know much about the Tyranids in 40k, but I would absolutely play that. If you're making a mod or a whole new campaign, what is the most important thing? That's a very open-ended question. However, I genuinely believe that for any sort of mod, having a design that you are passionate about is the most important thing. Like, the ability to go, I want to make X because I think it's going to be really neat. And when you then have that overarching goal and you really, really like the idea behind it, it's way easier to fit all the pieces together because you have that end game in mind. I've seen a lot of people go in with very kind of broad ideas of what they want to make, or just being like, hey guys, what should I make? And those mods never get finished. You have to want to make a specific mod, not just make a mod. Do you think that there's a possibility that Zero Space and Stormgate might not succeed? Yeah, I actually think about that a lot. I don't know, I mean, it's not good if that happens. I'm just gonna say right now that no matter whether they succeed or fail, it is going to be very detrimental for StarCraft. It is going to be a schism in the audience, and it is not one that I think that the game can take for long-term sustainability. And that means if all the other projects out there also flop, then the community is going to be divided into these subsections that are not actually able to keep content creation afloat, which would be really, really lame. And when I say content creation, I mean like the large amount of content that is being made for StarCraft right now, where there's a bunch of people working full-time making stuff. If you look at some of the other things, there's generally like one or two major content creators for other games that are tiny. It should be pretty obvious that I have been broadening my horizons, particularly on the main channel, in order to hedge my bets effectively. Like, I need to make sure that I have a future that can continue on, even if the developers mess things up in upcoming titles. Because fundamentally, I don't want to have my life be controlled by the actions of others. That's always a little bit risky and not really for me. Do you think that Abathur ever solved the Zergling's lemon juice allergy? And if not, what would humanity's best way of exploiting that weakness be? I think the first thing to remember about allergies is that for a lot of them, it can take like 30 minutes to 2 hours for a allergic reaction to happen. It really depends on what the allergen is, but we don't know how bad it is, and it might just be that, which for a human is pretty bad if you go into like anaphylactic shock at that point. But for a Zergling, that generally means that you have been out of the picture for 28 minutes if it takes 30 to appear. So it might just not be that big of a deal. However, For the Terran side of things, hear me out, LemonBats. You take the fire bat armor and you replace the flamethrowers with a misty lemon juice. It's gonna be more effective. I mean, fire bats are so bad in StarCraft 2, you can only go up. I think LemonBats is the future. Vitamin C. If they make StarCraft 3, do you think that they will add a 4th race? No, not at all. Blizzard learned their lesson about 4th races with Warcraft 3. So the math behind it effectively is that if you have 3 races, then there's 6 matchups and 9 perspectives that you have to deal with. So matchups being like Zerg versus Zerg, Zerg versus Protoss, etc., etc. And then perspectives being like in a Terran versus Protoss, it would be Protoss's perspective and Terran's perspective in the matchup. So you have to make sure that both the perspectives are enjoyable for both sets of players and the matchup is balanced. So with 3 players, as I said, it is 6 matchups and 9 perspectives. For 4 players, it is 10 matchups and 16 perspectives. I think I'm pretty sure that's the number. I didn't count. I'm pretty sure it's always the triangle number for the number of matchups, and then it's the square for the number of perspectives. So if there were 6 factions, there would be 21 matchups and 36 perspectives. Basically, it goes crazy due to exponents. So what you want to do is if you have really, really unique factions, you don't want to have too many of them because it just makes the world insane. And if you want to have a lot of factions, they need to be fairly similar to each other so you can switch between them when balancing issues arise. I really enjoy all the puns and jokes in your videos. What is your favorite one that you've made? This is a very easy one. The intro sequence to Blindfolded Legacy of the Void, I am very proud of. It's so stupid and it was really fun to make and it was stupid funny. I learned how to do motion tracking just for that. How do you feel about mince pies? Okay, what is with all the British stuff? It's only been 2, but these are different submissions on different days. Asking me if I'm British and then my opinion on mince pies. I think that basically any pie is good. Basically, if you have a tier list of food, if you put that food inside of a pie, it's probably going up 1 tier. If you could add a StarCraft 1 unit to StarCraft 2, which unit would it be? Well, I have to assume that in that question, it is asking about multiplayer because obviously in the campaigns or in co-op, you have every StarCraft 1 unit in some way, shape, or form. So I'm gonna say the Dragoon. I've always thought it'd be really cool if the Protoss had a Dragoon and you had to build it out of the gateway instead of the warp gate, so it would give gateways long-term viability, and you wouldn't be like super busted and be able to use warp prisms to warp in 1,000,000 Dragoons. That way, Protoss could justify having a really powerful gateway unit like the other factions do, and they wouldn't, break the game with instant teleportation across the map. And I really do think that they could use just a really nice long-range guy that sits in the back and fires a gun without anything special going on. Would you be interested? Sorry, this is the first time I read this. Would you be interested in a mod called Trains of Liberty, where each level has a unique train-based mechanic? Yes, please do it. Oh no, you linked a design document. I don't want to show this because it's yours and I don't want to put it publicly. This is a lot of text. Dude, you have train ideas. Do it. Okay, please make Trains of Liberty. This would be the greatest mod of all time. I thought my idea today of Wingdings of Liberty was good, but Trains of Liberty is amazing. Oh, jeez. I got to admit that I'm very proud of the way that I took the engines off of that dreadnought and then used it to block up the area and just dash past and take down their base. Super, super cool. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.